You were the first general manager in the world of an Aman.
Yeah, I was the first employee of Aman Resorts running the first hotel. Hello, this is Anthony Lark speaking to you today from Phuket, Thailand. I run the Shinta Mani Hotel group in Cambodia. Delighted to speak with Renee today. Where to from here on the podcast?
Hello, my name is Renee Leith Manos. Welcome to this podcast, Where to from here, featuring conversations about luxury travel and how it's changing in every pocket of the globe. Well, tell me all about Shinta Mani Wild and how it came to be and how you got involved.
Well, it was very interesting. I had resigned from Trisara and was starting my own business.
Right.
Hospitality business. And I have a restaurant here in Phuket, a really cool little tapas and bar restaurant called Anise, like the star Anise. And the owner, Bill's partner in Shinta Mani Hotels, came and had dinner one night. I just happened to be there with my wife, and he saw me talking to someone, and he said, Are you Anthony Lark? And I said, yeah, who are you? And he said, I'm Sakun. I said, are you that Sakun? Like Bed Supper Club, Shinta Mani, Bill's thing. You and I have been traveling literally ships in the night for 20 years. Great to meet you. We had dinner, and he said, oh my God, this is destiny. He's a big destiny guy, right? And he said, the next day, can we meet for breakfast? And said, I want you to run my company. And and we had breakfast at a hotel on the beach in Kamala here, and we did a deal. And I'm now running the operations, sales and marketing and finance for all the hotels.
And is that called HMD, that company?
Yeah, HMD is Hospitality Management and Development. And HMD Asia is the name of our company.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Shinta Mani, the big, attractive thing about that resort is how much of the forest has been saved and the environmental nod. Yeah.
Very much so. At the very core of the DNA of the planning and the execution of this. I mean, it's 300 hectares that Bill and Sakun realized were potentially going to be sold to a very large mining company. And the mining company would have destroyed this incredible habitat. So they bought it, leased it for long term. And in 300 hectares, we built 15 tents along the river. 15 tents in 300 hectares. I mean, it sounds like something from the Northern Territory, but
it does. How do you make money out of that? I mean, that begs the question, right?
Well, it wasn't expensive, and it's a long-term lease.
Okay.
But yeah, 15 tents is challenging. Yeah, absolutely. There's no economy of scale in that. So it was all driven by passion. They joined with the Global Wildlife Alliance, and we have 14 ranges on the property at Shinta Mani that is funded by donors, some from Australia, some from our owners. Bill Bensley is probably the biggest donor, and we fund the Wildlife Alliance, which provides these rangers who live on site and go on jeeps and by foot to protect the forest from illegal logging and poaching of animals, which end up being sold to China for some reason. Locals, somebody poaches, catches all sorts of exotic animals, and they sell them for markets and God knows what. So all that stopped, and the birds are back, and there's no mine, and the river is crystal clear. It's a real joy.
And Anthony, who stays at Shinta Mani Wild? Are they conservationists who are coming to stay, or?
No, mums and dads, kids. Mm-hmm. It's a resort guest who's looking for a little bit more of a real experience, someone where it's not contrived at all. It really isn't a Disneyfied hotel. You can't even call it a hotel. Sort of guests that stay there, we have a lot of Americans who come through Cambodia or on their way through Bangkok and Singapore, and they'll do the temples in Angkor Wat and come south to the Cardamom Forest and do 3 nights at Shinta Mani Wild and maybe go to a beach on Phuket on the way home.
Beautiful.
Europeans, French love it because of the Cambodian French history.
Connection. Yeah.
Aussies like it because it's close and it's beautiful weather when it's freezing cold like it is in Sydney now, or Melbourne. So it's a whole variety of guests. I can't put my finger on, one nationality or demographic.
And I think, what I'm seeing is that guests are looking for authenticity, which is exactly what you say you're offering.
Oh, precisely. There is nothing contrived or plastic about this hotel. It's not one of these hotels that claims to be sustainable, but then doesn't go further than removing plastic drinking bottles from the rooms and things like that. There's bamboo straws or plastic water drinking bottle. Of course, we use glass, but more importantly, our Shinta Mani Foundation is the core of all of the Shinta Mani hotels, and we have probably 30% of our staff have come through the Shinta Mani Foundation Hospitality School. These are underprivileged kids who had no chance, who we gave an education to at our Shinta Mani school for free in Siem Reap. They've stayed with us, and they're now, one of them is our incredible executive chef. This kid was from the poorest family. You can't imagine where he came from. He's now our executive chef at Shinta Mani Wild. It's transforming entire families, this whole foundation thing, and guests love being associated with that. I think it was one of your questions, what's the future of luxury travel, right? And I think people are being more conscious about traveling to places that do good, that have some role to play in the community, that have something more than just a little garden where they plant basil and chilies. It's extraordinary, the work that the foundation has done for so many people. It gives me goosebumps.
Wow. And does someone go there for a certain period of time, and are there certain ages? Just give us a snapshot. Okay,
well, in Cambodia, Shinta Mani operates two properties. One is in Siem Reap, which is at the temples of Angkor, which is in the north of the country. It's about an hour flight north of Phnom Penh. It's connected every day by Singapore. It's a really, really good airport. That's obviously the charming old town of, Siem Reap, and the cute little restaurants and romantic bars. And of course, going to Angkor Wat, one of the wonders of the world, at sunrise with our own people and a croissant and orange juice. And before the gates open, we do incredible experiences at the temples. But there's great shopping and lots of other diversions. Siem Reap's really grown up, and it's been completely restored during COVID. All the electricity's underground, new roads, new footpaths. It looks like a little Paris. It's just beautiful. So south of Phnom Penh is Shinta Mani Wild, which is where you zip line in if you want to, or not, in the Cardamom Forest, that 300 hectare reserve with the 15 tents. So we have two properties, and a lot of guests travel between both. And the beauty of Cambodia, rather than it just being a temple visit destination now, Phnom Penh has grown up so much in the last couple of years. Incredible restaurants, fabulous hotels, really wonderful guest experiences right on the Mekong River, including a hotel that our owner Sakun just opened, which is the Australian lifestyle brand Tribe, which is a core brand. The first tribe in Southeast Asia opened 3 days ago, right on the river in Phnom Penh, with these great little restaurants around it and amazing Shinta Mani spa. So there's lots of reasons to come to Cambodia, not just the temples, Yeah, you could easily spend 10 days there.
Wow. And the foundation, how does that slot into it?
The Shinta Mani Foundation is based in Siem Reap, and it funds the Wildlife Alliance that operates at Shinta Mani Wild in the south of the country with the funds through donors. It also operates in and around Siem Reap, supporting and from the Shinta Mani Angkor Hotel in Siem Reap near the temples. That's where the base of it is. That's where our school is. That's where we have 27 students in the school. We have all of these community activities that are run by our foundation staff, who are all paid for by the hotel. None of the funds from the donations ever get used for any admin. It's like it's an extraordinary thing. Like you give us $100 and that $100 goes to some great cause.
Which is almost never happens in any charity around the world.
And they always hide it by saying, the proceeds go to, but it just means that there's a whole ecosystem around most of these, not foundations so much, but certainly charities.
Charities, yeah. And so how old are the 27 students? What's the age range?
17 to 21.
Yep. And you're preparing them for a career in hospitality, ideally.
Correct. They've left school. Most the local schools, we test them with NGO, non-government organisation charities. We screen them, and these kids then pre-qualified to join the Shinta Mani Hospitality School. And once they graduate from that, they've come out of it with English skills, basic housekeeping skills, cooking skills, their first step to their dream to being an executive chef or a housekeeper or something like that, when they would have normally ended up back on the family's farm, working for the family, and really never had hope to break out of that cycle. So it's really important work.
Sounds very inspiring. It really does. Just the whole picture that you're painting of the company.
It is
wonderful. And look, I can't help but think that it's a million miles away from where you started, which, from my reading was, you were at the Four Seasons in Sydney, and you were appointed and headhunted to go to Aman, then the most prestigious hotel group in the world, and probably really now still the same thing.
Still,
at 27 years of age. Were you surprised at that appointment and that invitation?
Well, I was humbled and grateful and surprised and blown away and couldn't believe it. And I had worked for Adrian Zecker, the founder of Aman Resorts, when he was one of the partners in Regent Hotels, which is now the Four Seasons in Sydney, down on George Street. Right. I knew him coming in and out of the hotel just vaguely as one of the partners. And when I left the Four Seasons or the Regent, I went to work in WA, and I saw him. And he said, I'm doing this little thing in Thailand. No one's ever heard of this island called Phuket. But I'm doing this little hotel, and it hadn't opened. And of course, it was the first Amanpuri. And so he said, come up and see it with me. So he flew me there. We met. We didn't really even interview. And he offered me the job. And that was as GM, wasn't it? That was as GM? Yeah, I opened the hotel as the general manager, and you were the first general manager in the world of an Aman. Yeah, I was the first employee of Aman Resorts running the first hotel, and I guess one of the reasons that he says attracted me to him was that I hadn't been brainwashed by Hilton or Sheraton or one of the big cookie cutter chains. What we strived to achieve with Aman Resorts was we wanted to sort of redefine the way hospitality was unfolding, and that was through design, through location, through the way in which we hired staff and the way we trained them, to the way we designed uniforms, to the way that the manager interacted with guests more as a host. I was literally a glorified concierge. It was a lot of fun. Bizarre and weird, but incredible. And so young. And do you look at Aman now with a great sense of pride? Oh, very much so. I spent 12 years at Amanpuri as the general manager there, and we built and sold the first residential villas adjoining the little 40-room hotel. There's now 650 villas or something. And of course, now Aman Resorts has 24 hotels. Well, after Amanpuri was completed, it was less than a year before he sent me to Bali to open Amandari, Amankila, and Aman Nusa. So I would do 3 weeks Phuket, 3 weeks Bali, back and forth, hiring the general managers there, hiring the chefs, making sure the hotel worked with the designers. And it was an extraordinary, gift when I look back on it now to realize that, working daily with the likes of Kerry Hill, the Australian architect, and Ed Tuttle. These guys were geniuses and are recognized as such in the design world. So, and
if
Adrian,
sorry.
Yeah, no, Adrian Zecker he changed the way that hospitality was viewed. That's all. You know, he dared to be different. You know, at the time that we opened Amanpuri, the greatest resorts in the world were the really large hotels in Hawaii, you know, with dolphins in the pools and things like that. And, you know, Hayman Island, right? Places like that with these big sort of glitzy, more is more resorts.
And what's interesting about Aman is it's totally stood the test of time. It's still a world leader now. And I wanted to ask you, if you had to isolate, what is it about Aman that makes it Aman?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's a combination of, I think, and certainly Adrian Zecker believed, 3 or 4 things. First of all, each site was worthy of the design. You know, the design was paramount. I mean, Aman Resorts hotels are always driven by, first of all, the first glance design, right? The simplicity and the elegant way in which things unfolded. It was more residential than commercial. Mm-hmm. There were no TVs, there were no signs. It was much more of a residential experience than a commercial one. But the way we hired general managers, the way we hired executive chefs, the way we hired bellboys and housekeepers was in a way that they were indoctrinated into our core belief, which was that we wanted our guests to feel, I know it's a cliche, but we truly believed that we wanted, in a small hotel, we could achieve it. Our guests to feel that they were staying, it was akin to staying in the home of a friend rather than in a hotel. So, you know, the day that we were open, about 3 months, and I remember telling my financial controller, this whole thing about the home of a friend is fabulous. Why are we giving people bills in the restaurants when they have a drink at the bar, etc.? No more bills. So everyone freaked out thinking guests would deny ever having that beer in the bar, and no one ever did. So we reassessed many traditional practices. You know, if you arrived early, you got a room. If you left on a 10 p.m. flight, you had your room until you left.
And was it devastating to leave, or were you ready to leave Aman after 12 years?
Good question. At the time that I left, Adrian Zecker had lost the company in a bitter battle for control of the board. And he sort of walked away and he was starting his new thing. And so it was like being in a family and like daddy's gone, right? And the new guys came in and they just weren't the same. And they were asking me why there's so many flowers in the lobby and why don't we charge guests more for laundry and all of this stuff. And so I just happened to live next door in Phuket to a beautiful piece of land. And the owners there were friends of mine. And they said, why don't you join us and we'll do Trisara. You find the name and we'll do Trisara and identify what maybe some of the shortcomings were in Amanpuri, and let's try to design and hire and create experiences that maybe matched that or you know, could exceed the expectations of an Aman junkie. And so we did, right next door.
Fantastic. And you're still living in Phuket to this day?
Yeah. I have a house next door to Trisara that I lived in even when I was working there. And my wife has a coffee shop and a spa, and we own a little tapas restaurant down in it's like the double bay of Phuket. It's called Boat Avenue. It's like the Hastings Street of Phuket. It's where all the restaurants and, you know, cool places are and bars. And to be honest, I fell in love with Southeast Asia and the people here. And I go back to Australia a lot. I have sisters there and all my old friends are there. And I have 2 sons at University of New South Wales, another one in Perth. And I love going back to visit, but it's kind of nice to get on the plane and see someone do that and take off on a Thai International and know you're coming back to 365 Yeah, 365 days warm weather,
Yeah.
great food, the food, everything, you know.
And I wanted to ask you, I mean, you're really in a position to give me, a really balanced answer. Like, why aren't there more luxury hotels in Australia? Why doesn't the Australian market gravitate to luxury in the way that the rest of the world does, particularly Europe, because a lot of Europe comes to, here to Southeast Asia?
Yeah, it's a really good question too. We looked at this both from a practical point of view and from a dreaming point of view many times in the last 20 years. There were friends of mine who are Australians who own magnificent pieces of land up in Byron Bay or in Broome in northwest Western Australia. Incredible experiences that you could have with the desert and the Aboriginal culture and all of that. The reason is, if you build a small hotel in Australia and you want to staff it to the expectations of service that people are expecting or have had in Asia or in Bali or in Thailand, it's really, really expensive. Australian payroll is, let's say, in an Asian small resort, payroll represents approximately 15% of your revenue. In Australia, if you picked up an Aman and put it on the Barrier Reef or up in northern Queensland, 70% or 60% of your income would go straight to payroll. So it's just not sustainable from a financial point of view, really. And it's a pity. It's a pity because Australia has these insane experiences. It's the same with Hawaii, Renee. Why isn't there more great, small, beautiful hotels in Hawaii? I mean, Hawaii is probably one of the, if not the world's most famous tropical resort destination. And there's the Hana Maui Ranch in Maui. There's a couple of small resorts, but they all go broke. And the financial thing is probably the biggest reason.
Even in America.
In America, people's expectations for service are lower. So in America, that everyone works for their tips. It's just a different culture. But the same principle applied. We opened Aman Gani in the hills of Wyoming, a ski resort.
Yeah.
And it was a nightmare financially. I mean, the owners could afford it. These are more trophies, that incredible one in the desert in Colorado, I think.
Yes.
That's incredible, right? But these places don't make money unless they run at 80% occupancy.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really tough. So financial is probably the most important aspect of that.
Yeah, which makes, as you say, Southeast Asia such a great place to be based. I couldn't agree more. But I wanted to ask you, in terms of PR, in terms of the way the world's changed, what are the touch points that the luxury guest is now looking for that perhaps they weren't looking for 2.5, 3 years ago?
Right. There's been a quantum shift. In the 90s, 80s and 90s, people were coming to $500 or $1,000 a night resorts for excess. They're all drinking champagne and smoking cigars. These are in the pre-internet days, right? When movie stars would mingle with, mums and dads because there were no cameras, when there was no Facebook, no internet.
Yeah.
Nobody could
behind closed doors.
It was much more of a private experience, and people were reading magazines and newspapers and not on their cell phones. But what they're looking for now is more healthy diversions. Wellness has taken a huge role. Capture rates for hotels like Aman's and Trisara for the spa are about 30 or 40%, which means that 40% of the guests every day are going to the spa.
Wow.
They're going to the gym in the morning. They're going to the spa in the afternoon. They might do some kickboxing down on the beach. They'll have a set of tennis with one of the boys. Wellness and fitness and the desire to look and feel better when you check out than you did when you arrived. That's a big thing these days, and it's driving all that whole spa business.
No, that's really true. And even the rise of the non-alcoholic alcohol is one example. I mean, it's huge. Even in Australia, in Asia, everywhere.
Yeah. In addition to the move towards a plant-forward based diet. I mean, people aren't eating hamburgers and big fat steaks every night and chicken burgers. At Shinta Mani Wild, our chef forages with guests as one of the experiences up into the forest, and he'll come back and use the basis of everything you've just collected from our forest to do this beautiful salad, which he mixes with other things. And we do a lot, he can turn vegetarian food into some of the most beautiful things you've ever eaten. So there's a real move away from, getting drunk and eating lots of meat to eating well, exercising in the morning, doing yoga, mindfulness, all of that is really a big thing. And we've at Shinta Mani just appointed the wife of our general manager there is a doctor, lovely young South African girl, and she has now created an entire wellness series that unfolds for you at Shinta Mani Wild that keeps you fit, makes you sleep better, makes you dream better, cleans you out, all of that. So it's a big part of why people choose a place.
And Anthony, when you travel, do you travel in luxury, and are you doing it for work to see what the market's doing, or where do you like to go?
Well, if I travel for work and let's say I go to the Pure conference in Marrakesh to sort of showcase the Shinta Mani Hotels or Trisara, I know a lot of hotel general managers, so I got to sneak in for a night to places like the George Cinq in Paris or La Mamounia or the Four Seasons in Marrakesh. So I have tastes of luxury, and I went to the I love experiencing them, but I also like staying in much more simple places where you feel much more at one with nature. You can have both. The Como Resort in Bali, for instance, up in Shambhala in Bali, right? As you know, you feel like you're in a jungle, and it's luxury. But I think luxury doesn't necessarily mean what it meant before. We had this epiphany a few years ago when we realized that luxury was probably the most overused word in our business. Everyone was using it.
It is a bit. Yeah.
And it was associated with pretense or, gold-plated taps or Carrera marble and Rolls Royces, right? In fact, a truly luxurious experience, truly something that's luxurious is actually the outcome of an experience. So we think that, you can have a beautiful bowl of noodles or a beautiful bowl of pasta at the Cipriani in Venice out on the river. That's truly luxury, but it's a bowl of pasta. You might do sunrise yoga with Solvig at Shinta Mani Wild. You climb the tower, you do yoga in this insane environment in the middle of a forest, and then you zip line into breakfast where you have this organic breakfast. It's not worth talking about. That is luxury. But there's no gold taps and, frette bathrobes involved. The simpler things in life can actually be the most luxurious. That's what I'm trying to get at.
And might I say also the connection of the person that you're with, whether it's the staff or whether it's your personal partner or relative that you've taken along, that's also part of the experience, I think, now.
Yeah, well, the outcome of an experience is also who you're interacting with. It's not just a product. So luxury isn't a product, it's the outcome of an experience. Was that epiphany. And it can be applied to an amazing massage, like with the sound of a river, or it can be, a bowl of noodles with an old lady on the side of the street in Bangkok. It's just wonderful, wonderful things like that.
Fantastic. Look, Anthony, I could talk to you all day, but before we go, I need to ask you, where to from here for you?
I adopt the Buddhist philosophy to this thing. I'm floating down a river. I have no idea where the waterfall is. I'm just going to keep floating until, as Adrian Zecker used to say, I think I'm going to, like General Custer, I'm going to go down with my boots on. I love what I do. This is not a job. I'm so privileged and honored to be able to create these, create happy moments for people in these magical places. And I can't imagine the word retirement and playing golf and, doing all of that. I just couldn't do it. So I don't know is the answer to that. I think Southeast Asia has so many beautiful untapped resources and experience. Something around here, maybe.
Fantastic. Well, it sounds like you've got plenty to do right now.
Busy.
Well, thank you for taking the time to talk with us, and hope to meet up with you in person soon, Anthony.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Come to Cambodia and stay with us at Shinta Mani, Renee, and we'll do sunrise yoga with Solving and zip line to breakfast together.
I'd love to. I'll see you there.
Great chatting with you. My pleasure.
You too, Anthony. Have a great day. Bye. Don't forget to subscribe here and follow us on Instagram and Facebook for regular travel updates. You can also hear our episodes on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.